Welcome back to the Open Division here on the HeroesHype channel. I am Bahamut, one of your hosts this evening. I am joined by InanimateJ. How are you doing? Are you ready for this best of three?
I'm excited. I was watching the semifinals over on the main HGC channel. Really excited to see what these two teams can do, fighting over the $100 up for grabs for team number 3, as well as the point difference coming into play here. 15 points separating these two, and you and I were talking about it a bit off the air, Bahamut. It adds up at the end, especially if you grind all of these open divisions all the way through. Every cup matters. Every point you guys earn in the bracket matters when it comes down to it at playoff time.
That's the one big thing too, is that we need to consider that, like, sorry, I'm seeing friend requests, I'm hearing noises all over the place. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything here. But it's for something else. But either way, so first and second place, we're looking at 120 points or 90 points. And that's also $600 or $300. Then third place is 75 points, which is what we're going to be casting this evening, and $100. Fourth place only takes 60 points. So no monetary prize for fourth place. And that's the one thing that we really need to also make sure here is that, you want to consider that, because you said it perfectly that we were talking off air. I had mentioned that last season, there were two teams vying for the 8th spot, and they were both sitting at 170 points. None of them broke over that 100 or that 40 point mark in any of the cups. So this is definitely something that we need to, consider here, factored into the later half of the season. But it looks like we are going to be going into this map. And Jay, what kind of map bans did we have, just so we can kind of catch the audience up here?
So Reborne won the coin toss. They chose first pick. So Team NEWMERICS is banned Brax's Holdout. No Zerg waves for this match. And Cursed Hollow being taken out of the map pool by Reborne. And the map choice from Team NEWMERICS will be Dragon Shire, with Reborne taking the first ban, Dahaka taking that global presence off the draft board.
So that Dahaka already being gone, Genji being taken away, that mobility, oh my god, they are speeding through this draft. They don't even want us to sit here and talk about the bans, so we'll move on. Malfurion being picked up here, a great asset for these teams. That Moonfire providing a lot of good poke, as well as the entangled roots just to kind of lock someone down, and then have, there's a lot of good stuff that can come from Malfurion, and I've seen it in the Open Division in Europe, and even in the Pro Divisions throughout, the different regions, EU, NA, Korea, China. Malfurion is a high priority in the current meta that we're sitting in, with the burst and the ability to kind of spread that healing around to the friendly team, as well as that, if people are going to be bursting you, they're going to be diving you. So you have that kind of pause with the Twilight Dream, with that silence. And I really like that they're going to go ahead, they'll grab it right here and just be like, this is what we're going to start our draft with.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got plenty of utility on that very high priority for the support pick. You were talking about Malfurion's kit. It's very, very strong, especially with the entangling roots. And it's really, really interesting to see teams prioritize him so highly, because he does factor in well in a lot of compositions. But I get the sense that with that early of a pick, there's a lot of room to counterplay around him. And this is a big frontline pickup coming out of Team NEWMERICS right now, as Johanna and Yrel make the appearance in the first rotation.
We saw it last night, and Yrel, I mean, do you remember that Towers of Doom game where we were just like, you and I were just pointing out consistently the Goomba stomps that were coming out from Yrel? And we were also watching some of the games from earlier, from the semifinals in the round of 8, and it's Yrel's making a bigger impact in these later halves. I think Yrel is much more important and more prioritized than I think, at least I expected myself. I did not think that Yrel was going to be heavily contested like this, or at least, some teams putting a priority in the 1-2 slot.
She feels to me a little bit like a Medivh, in the sense that the kit requires a lot of digging into to really get used to and figure out how to best execute that skill set that she brings. But once you really unlock her, once you get into basically the bottom level of that skill floor for Yrel, she can become so oppressive in the way that she's able to move around the battlefield, get the Avenging Wrath in, slow heroes down on the retreat. Very good at pursuing heroes with that ability to just jump in, knock them back, slow them down with the hammer as well. There's just so many options that she has in addition to her relatively good self-sustain.
That's the one thing you hit on, that point of Medivh, and I had this conversation with some friends and players that I know are going to be competing within the Open Division. And the one thing that I keep coming back to when I discuss Uriel with them is I say she's a lot of utility, she's a lot of setup,
Hmm.
and with the Joanna, I think that's so much more for her. The condemn enables her to kind of, you have that ability for her to get in front of the enemy team and utilize the hammer, as you pointed out, to knock them back and pull them into these really risque areas. But at this point, we are going to be seeing a ban onto the Chromie and a ban onto the Tracer. I like this from both teams, to be honest. The Blaze and the solo lane going to the Uriel, I think that's a great matchup. Then you have Falstad for the global aspect, but you're going to need someone for that bottom lane. And the consistent harass from Tracer, I think, is so strong. And then on the side of Team NEWMERICS here, they could go into that Chromie, and with the Uriel and Joanna, I think that would have paired very well, especially on Dragon Shire being a map where teammates need to stand on a point so they become a target for that Sandblast, for that Dragon's Eye. It's really, really a smart bans coming out from both these teams.
I was about to say really smart bans, very intelligent picks from both teams in how they approach the draft there. I'm really curious to see if NEWMERICS picks up their support in this rotation. I think with Johanna, they're going to want a strong wave play. Deckard Kane was going to be, yep, there it is. I love this. I was thinking to myself, Kane is the perfect answer with this type of rotation. With the 4-man going between mid and bottom on this map, Johanna gives you so much utility, because if you catch anybody in rotation, there's so much opportunity with Deckard throwing the cube on or the scroll of identify. You and I talked about it ad nauseum last night with just how strong Deckard's kit is in that 4-man rotation. And now you have the Gul'dan with the wave clear. When you've got Johanna prepping everything with the condemn, that's a really scary prospect when you're trying to grind those waves down on the other side.
The only thing that we're starting to look at this, and we talked about the 4-member rotation between mid and bottom, and much like how you can, I was watching the mainstream and I was like, hey, make sure you note things about Hammer, because Hammer is in this meta, and out of nowhere, we get the third tank, technically, for the members of Reborne here. They will be picking up that Sergeant Hammer. But the one thing I want to note is, you said, we talked about it extensively last night, just really quickly, that Deckard in rotational maps where you have, between mid and top, bottom and mid, or, one of those, like, for example, Infernal Shrines, you can see that there as well, between mid and bottom. It's one of those situations where you really need to consider how you're going to heal throughout that. Stukov typically was the past, option where you would have the pustule, you get that healing in the rotation, then you'd be ready for the lane. Here, Deckard throws out the potions, you pick them up as needed, and that is perfect for the Gul'dan. But this Garrosh Hammer, Jay, I love this. Like, Garrosh just gets to play protect around Hammer anytime they try and dive, and the Greymane, we'll see if they're able to get onto that Hammer with it.
I'm not sure I like the Greymane pick there. A Greymane into a Hammer can work if you can catch the Hammer out, but that's a really strong front line in Garrosh and Blaze. And with a Falstad right behind, get that Lightning Rod onto Greymane and just start poking away at range. It's going to be really tough, I think, for Greymane to be very effective if they come in from the front on the attack. If they come in on the flank, come in late, try and pick off a wounded player, similar to how a Genji would play in this situation, might be a little bit more effective. But I think the real question here is, will NEWMERICS have the ability to get to Sergeant Hammer? And I think that's going to be key for them being successful here. Even though they've got, in my opinion, the better rotation in the 4-man, I think that as soon as Hammer is able to start to impose on the protracted team fights, there's going to be a little bit of a question to be asked of Team NEWMERICS' composition.
The one thing, is it's getting onto that line, and I think a lot of this will also come down onto the Gul'dan and Uriel, as Uriel getting in there and kind of disrupting, peeling, pulling, and putting people in the wrong spot. And then you have the Gul'dan, who is definitely going to be doing a lot of damage and trying to poke in, definitely with those this little fisherman over here is going to be doing a lot of those corruption stacks. But on the left-hand side, we are going to be having Reborne in this best-of-3 series. D-Rec is going to be on that Garrosh. Unaverted will be on the Hammer. Winterheart going to be playing the Falstad. Showtime going to be on the Blaze, and Valimar Hearthing on the Malfurion.
And on the right side, in the right, it's Team NEWMERICS. Caesar Salad playing Deckard. Uriel being played by Zabutak. Astabroth on Johanna. Hayun on Gul'dan. And Kwanzar on the Greymane.
All right, we are going to be having both teams run straight. Actually, no, I lied. We're going to have Garrosh go straight into the bottom. Blaze will be probably in that top lane for the solo into the Urel. But that's interesting to me that they will be having the Garrosh, who can get some early game punishment almost for not respecting the range, isn't going to be going into that. But either way, we have some little bit of talent diversity here, as we also have this this little skirmish happening.
Garrosh actually went down to body soak a little bit of the early wave, but you look at how quickly that 4-man rotation comes in from Team NEWMERICS. That's exactly what we talked about. Look at how quickly they cleared that wave and immediately rotate back to mid and just work this rotation. This speed of wave clear right now is going to be a big difference in them getting experience through the early game towards that level 10 push early on, especially if they get a chance to open up the map.
So in these rotations, you know, we can talk about that. They're getting the wave clear, and they're doing a phenomenal job. Greymane does a really good job of that. We actually have a rotation from Deckard and Greymane to the top lane. I wonder if they're going to be looking for... No, they're going to be going for the camp. But so this is one of the things that I wanted to actually note on really quickly talking about camps. We have the Falstad going into the wingman at level 1. So having the actual... You know, the bribe stacks, if you will, just to put it simply, on the camps, that means they're going to play a little bit of a slower game. And, you know, with that hammer, that does make sense. They're going to be looking for a lot of this kind of slow play, I do think. And a couple of these early Dragonites will maybe go over to the members of Team NEWMERICS, but it's really how they respond to it, I think, is going to be the big play here. The other thing, too, to note really quickly is they're going to be taking that field study on Deckard Cain and also just going to be, granting some spell power, as we do have a little bit of a fight breaking out on top. Showtime, actually, no one going to be caught by the scroll ceiling there, as they will press in with this hard camp.
Really good aggressive camp pickup from the members of Team NEWMERICS. The Greymane, I understand the pick now with the Deckard, very strong at being able to clear that hard camp early on. And look at the pressure they're exerting into what would have been the solo lane for Reborne at the moment. The front wall about to go down, and that camp still being able to push in. They get the well here, that's a really strong early lead.
I really like that from them, and it's also denying the Falstad from getting those stacks. Typically, you want that Falstad in the 4-member rotation between the lanes, but we have Winterheart being getting dove on, and that will be Greymane getting the first kill. And I was about to say, is Showtime going to punish this? But unfortunately, Urel's going to be able to jump right in there, and Caesar Salad continually just dropping out those potions. And it looks like at this point, they're going to be pushing in top lane, while bottom, unaverted on that hammer, is going to be doing some siege, but not as quickly as they have been in top.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. They're actually going to lose the fort by the looks of things. Showtime is completely at the mercy of Zabutek zoning with the Urel. Finally, the rotation in from D-Rec and the respawning Winterheart is looking for an option here, but man, that root just keeps Showtime in, and Kwanzar won't dive in for that final blow. Can't actually find the Ganillion cocktail either, and he'll get away with a sliver of health. But just the pressure right now from this 3-man rotation in that top lane, it's almost like a free fort, Bahamut.
They basically are taking everything that you would standard... You're taking the standard play away from this map. Typically, we see a heavy pressure on bottom. They're looking to open that up. But the one thing, and we did talk about this last night a little bit on the one Dragon Shire map we had, is taking out that top lane and the bottom lane are probably the most important things you can do on this map, especially the well, the sustain. Being able to not allow that solo laner to have a well to tap, and they have to go all the way to keep or even mid lane for that boost in health and mana. It's crippling. And so at this point, they can now rotate their assets down into different lanes and basically do the same thing and control this very well, as Caesar Sal is going to get tossed, but it doesn't look like they will be getting killed just yet.
Deckard Cain just simply doesn't die. Alt Q is so powerful because of how much healing he's able to output with his generally small health pool in the first place. And couple that with Field Study, being able to get any landing of the Scroll of Identify, or the Scroll of Sealing, just gives you so much burst healing ability when you're in trouble there. And I like the positioning from D-Rec on the Garrosh, looking for that flank, trying to toss a hero in rotation towards the wall in mid. He's actually going to get Hayun here with the body block, trying to drain life himself out and get the trade onto unaverted, but that is the Warlock down. But it feels like a drop in the bucket, Bahamut. That one kill just isn't quite enough.
I like this, though, rotation. I like Winterheart utilizing the flight just to get the camp and bottom. The kill is great, yes. It denies them the wave clear. That's the big thing, at least in the bottom lane. Meanwhile, on top, they're having a field day with this. I mean, Zabutok is just doing whatever they want into this Blaze, and they really can't do enough damage to make them leave the lane. Meanwhile, you have Greymane getting the clear into this camp, and Decker doesn't even need to be with the team. Now, granted, at the same time, bottom lane's getting pushed in extremely hard at this point with that hammer, as we are going to be losing the Joanna, and that's going to be another great pickup for the members of Reborne here. Starting to get a little bit momentum behind them, but the thing is, there's a half-level difference, and the members of Team NEWMERICS are extremely close to 10.
Yeah, I think 10s will be on deck for both teams relatively at the same time. You can see the experience difference. It's hardly half a level, probably closer to a quarter to a third. And I think that that's probably a good sign that Reborne have got themselves at least out of that early pressure that was being exerted on them. They're getting that bottom lane in response to losing their fort and top. 10's now online for the members of Team NEWMERICS, but again, right around the corner there, as I say that, they show up for Reborne all the same, and it's basically right back to where we started here. Both of these teams trying to find an advantage here during this Dragon phase.
We do have the solo lane just being the battle of eternity, but we currently have a nice route that does go out onto the Gul'dan. There will also be a taunt that will be the kill. We have a stay a while and listen from Caesar's Salad, but a couple heroics are going to be coming out here, and that will be the Decker Cane falling. The old man is not going to be treated well here as they get 2 kills on the side of Reborne and potentially look for a Dragonite.
Yeah, Deckard Cain went stay a while, and oh, I'm alone. That was probably a mistake, because he actually only hit Garrosh in there and got the giant bullet in the face from the BFG of Sergeant Hammer for his troubles, then thrown, and yeah, it just didn't work out for the Horadrim Sage there. it was such a. I just want to say though, it was such a good rotation from D-Rec on the Garrosh, though. He snuck in through the bushes where the siege camp is and just kind of walked in there and really said, here's what's up, and got the stun.
Gonna go ahead and do a lot of poke damage to this Joanna, but it doesn't look like they're gonna be able to get any sort of confirmed kill, as the rest of the team will be kind of walking into mid to make sure that this Dragonite does not go over. Gul'dan in bottom lane will confirm that the Shrine does go over to them. They even this out 11 to 11. This game is fairly even in structures as well as I was gonna say, actually levels, as we have the Unstoppable going to be used by the Garrosh. He's trying to get out of here. The bunker will be coming down from Blaze at this point. Both of them will be leaving. We have just Yrel trying to do as much as they can to slow them and get this kill, but it won't be happening. A lot of assets used here. No big heroics, I'm noticing, but either way, it's still going to be basically 12 to 12 and still up for the first Dragonite.
Horrify actually was used by Gul'dan.
Oh, you're right. I do see that.
And Kane coming in, I think he came in on the offensive side of that rotation. Might have been looking for the flank, stay a while and listen, but there was just no time there, as all of the members of Reborne collapsing in on the last of the Horadrim once again, and that should be the bottom fort in their favor right now.
Currently going to have the Cursed Bullet actually going out into Hammer there, which is interesting to me. Just it's a short cooldown, I understand that, but it just kind of going out for almost poke. We have Winterheart going to get that flight up into this lane, as we have also Blaze and Garrosh trying to get on to Zubatok, and this Yrel is just going to stay here as long as possible. The Arden is going to be used as they're going to be continuing to brawl this out. We have the Joanna coming up as well. Caesar Cell will be here for some support. Bunker did come down, so they do have that shielding, but there is also healing coming out from Caesar Cell. That's the big thing to consider here, as D-Rec will be falling so low. The Garrosh does fall, but hey, you in a bad spot. Gonna have to use the Horrify, but they will be getting killed by Winterheart as the sleep comes out from Caesar Salad here. We have Zabutok diving in so deep here. We also are going to have the rest of the team just getting out, and this looks like it will be a 1-for-1 trade, and the teams rotate out into their respective lanes.
The timing just didn't quite work out for NEWMERICS on that rotation. Gul'dan actually got caught coming in support. It was NEWMERICS with the early attempt at catching the members of Reborne off guard on that top control point, but unfortunately all the members of both teams rolling in, you get the team fight there, and it's actually Heyoon who just gets caught out a little bit there, thrown into the roots, and then collapsed in on by the rest of Reborne. When without that damage from Gul'dan, the long sleep duration of stay a while and listen, just not enough room to find a pick after that comes off. Winterheart
getting that was a little worrisome for a second there, but this will be the altars available for the members of Team NEWMERICS. And I'm not sure if NEWMERICS can get here. They have the Garrosh in mid. Showtime's going to be just making sure that Zabatok has to leave this lane. They get the transfer over on this. And I want to point this out just to Twitch chat. We are 10 minutes into this game. We still have not had a single Dragonite yet, as bottom lane is going to get barraged by a couple of the members from NEWMERICS. And it looks like Reborne will have to kind of reposition it and get ready for this, as they have the Malfurion and Hammer coming down into lane as well.
Ooh, big 3-stack to finish off the quest for D-Rec on the Groundbreaker. And that's an important quest to finish as well, because it gives you a little bit extra sustain in the team fights when you're landing that. Oh, Hayun with the Horrify trying to get D-Rec to come back, but the Indomitable on level 4 coming out in handy as Garrosh just says, you can't scare me, I'm going to keep walking.
This Yrel, the Zabatok on this Yrel, it just does not die, we always go over to the pan and we get a huge bullet that's going to be getting a kill here, as we also have Caesar Salad going to be falling to the Hammer as well. That BFG coming out and just getting the burst onto that one member. That's actually one of the things that I had this conversation with some people when Hammer was getting played in the past a little bit and the popularity still didn't skyrocket. I was just like, why is it always BFG? I don't get it. Napalm has such a good, clear and everything, and it's just the burst that you get from the BFG adds so much to Hammer, and it makes it so terrifying. That blunt force gun dealing 803 damage currently as it stacks up throughout the game. So to do 800 on a burst like that, especially to the enemy healer, that's just terrifying. And you have a root that goes down, they're gone.
Well, what's the one biggest weakness with Sergeant Hammer is the fact that your mobility and your ability to chase is negligible at best. So if you give yourself the ability through your heroic to finish off fights when you're in a duel like that and just get people with the fadeaway BFG shot, it makes Hammer so much more valuable as a team fighter. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of players who default to Napalm Strike don't really realize. Is like, if you're doing that, you really have to focus on being a split laner, and that in this current meta
doesn't work
almost it's almost a detriment with the way that the current Heroes meta is.
Oh yeah, the main thing is, you have a lot of heroes that can play around as I remember when my friends were teaching me to play with hammers and stay away from hammers. You remember when Battlefield of Eternity came out? Like, that was actually that was when Hammer got super popular again. It was, playing under the umbrella. And so you have things like Valimar on the Malfurion, and then you also have the Garrosh just to protect the Hammer, as well as toss people into that range and separate them from that team and just get the burst damage that we're seeing here. So I really like what they've put together, and they're starting to get some momentum behind them, as they did have a strong game at the start here with NEWMERICS, but it looks like as we get a little bit later and later, they're, I wouldn't say falling apart, but it seems like Reborne's kind of starting to control the map a little bit.
Well, this is exactly what we talked about in the draft, is as the match went on, whether or not there'd be the ability for Team NEWMERICS' composition to get in and get the Hammer. And they just don't have that ability. You've got D-Rec sitting there playing a linebacker, essentially. Anybody who gets close gets thrown and focused on by the rest of the members of Reborne. And they just can't find a way through that single hero. And this is why I say Garrosh is so oppressive to play against, because his kit is so utilitarian that there's so many options he has to do things to help compositions.
At this point, we are just going to be having a nice big push in from the members of NEWMERICS here. Doesn't look like they're looking for any sort of pressure onto a fort or anything, but still, as we continue into this, we have not had a single Dragonite phase yet. 17-16, almost 14 minutes into the game. This is exciting, as we do have a little bit of a brawl breaking out in this mid lane.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, Hayun actually taking the Fellflame quest on level 1, not the Echoed Corruption like we normally see out of a lot of Gul'dan players, opting to go for the little bit more persistent poke build from the backside. Oh, Kwanzar about to get clapped. Oh man, the eyes in the dark, that range and that stealth, just able to get him out of the roots before they become active.
Kwanzar just getting out of there with that nice little roll. That was just perfect timing, just the perfect IQ. But at this point, we do have just Yrel is going to continue to hold this top, as we have the rest of the members of Reborne holding bottom, and we have Greymane once again grabbing some camps and just pressure throughout this game. And I gotta say, I wouldn't say it's a stalemate in a sense, but we are getting kind of to this point where, the flight for the Gust, but it doesn't happen as we do get the Blessed Shield that comes out, stopping them here. Showtime going to be dropping the bunker. We have the big Blunt Force going to be coming out and dealing a whole lot of damage as we have the Joanna and Deckard already falling. Gul'dan will be the next one to go down. Bunker going to be jumped in by a couple members to get some shielding here as Yrel not able to get into this. Zavatak is like, I don't really want to battle 5. I don't think I can sustain through that, so I'll just back off here. And this is potentially the first Dragon Knight going over to Reborne almost 16 minutes into the game.
And this is what I see in a lot of Dragon Shire games nowadays, is this first Dragon Knight phase being held out for very long periods of time, unless a team just completely messes up their rotation as they go through. You see Unaverted setting up, looking to get in and force Zavatak off of that control point. I love that play. It's the hammer umbrella that you talked about. There's just so much range on that hero, as Kwanzar just gets the disruption on the channel, but the fly in from Falstad will give the Dragon Knight over finally to Reborne here.
First Dragon Knight of the game. This will actually confirm 20 as well for the members of Reborne, and BFG is going to come off cooldown very soon, so you'll actually be able to take Orbital, and to be honest, it's one of the things that I've been seeing, and as annoying and cheesy as it is a huge asset for teams to be able to take that, and that actually will be picked up at level 20 here, and so they'll have that continual pressure into this bottom lane as it looks like they want to go ahead and open this up a little bit here. We have the bunker coming down. Yrel going to go ahead and get out of here with that nice little jump, but meanwhile, they're sieging this up very well, though the members of NEWMERICS have burned this Dragon Knight down to about 10% health, even less actually. They look like they have to back off, and they won't be getting this keep just yet, but that is still a great push with the first Dragon Knight of this game.
And they still actually have an opportunity there. Big double throw by D-Rek into the root. The collapse in, but the sleep out of the back line as Garrosh will be the first to fall. NEWMERICS trying to turn this around, unaverted, just blowing the thrusters to be able to get away from that one. It's Garrosh being the only one to fall. Fight's not over, though, as Winterheart looking like he wants to go in for a couple. Oh, the orbital bullet. Kwanzar takes a bit, but he'll stay alive. A lot of resources exchanged on that front wall of the keep at the Team NEWMERICS backline there, but ultimately it's only Garrosh that goes down as he came out of that Dragon Knight.
We saw that little extra chase onto Sergeant Hammer there. It didn't happen, that extra thruster, but it looks like Zavatak will be going ahead, just rudely just going to take away the camp here without even just, worrying about being invaded, as they have these strong rotations that are going to come out from the members of NEWMERICS. They have the BFG pushing down that bottom lane. It will eventually work down the keep, and that's one of the things that I was mentioning. I was like, do you take that kind of annoyance, that cheese, if you will?
The cheese is great. I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, what is the arc of that bullet? Is that going to run through that camp if they're not careful? And right as I'm thinking that, it comes on through and gives Deckard Cain a little bit of the what's up.
It's just like, hey, just don't forget me. I'm going to be continually doing damage to your keep, and then eventually shielding from your core.
I'm going to let you finish, but...
It's just, it's just like, you can get that camp, but you're still just going to take some pointless damage. It looks like at this point they want to take this keep, and the BFG, the orbital BFG has done enough damage where they can just go ahead, they can burst this down, the rotation won't be coming out quick enough, and that's exactly what they do. They confirm that they can actually rotate the missile into mid lane of this. Oh,
nope, I love that.
I love this. I was thinking differently, but I actually love this even more.
I have a friend who is like a level 75 Sergeant Hammer. This is one of his favorite things to do when you're in a game with Hammer and you've got the orbital BFG. Once you get a keep where you have the opportunity to line it up and hit every keep, let's just go ahead and do that, especially if the game is as close as this one is. Sure, there's a keep down on the side of Team NEWMERICS, but it's 20v20, and one big team fight is going to throw it in NEWMERICS' favor. So just get that orbital bullet grinding down those keeps, and if this fight goes on long enough, they'll have that entire map opened up with catapult pressure.
We currently have a big dive going on to that Hammer. It won't be getting them the kill that they want. There was also a gust that came out from Winterheart there just to deny them these kills. And as you said it perfectly, and I actually peeked over at the level 10 talents just to see what the current stacking is. The the BFG does 931 damage currently. So every time it's going through both of those keeps, it's doing near 1,000 damage to each keep every single rotation. And so, yeah, it will eventually work them down, as it looks like we have Gul'dan on the bottom lane, and we're going to have a nice big fight in top, but actually a flight out from Winterheart in the bottom. They want to make sure that this Dragon Knight does not happen. Sergeant Hammer rotated there, but I think they counted some members on map here. As Gul'dan rotated up, there's going to be a route that comes up from Furin, going to slow them down here, but Sergeant Hammer not in the best spot. If they do scout this out, this could potentially be a dive onto the hammer, and that might be what happens as the Unstoppable is used. The bunker does come out. Zabatok is taking a little bit of damage here. They're actually going to continue to poke onto this, as it looks like they make the disengage, but actually Blaze is going to be going in there. Winterheart actually just going to backdoor here, and it's like, you know what, I'm good. We actually have a BFG going to be coming out and actually hitting a couple members into the top lane, and Jay, I think Reborne might be able to take this.
Reborne's got that backdoor core call. Falstad with a couple of catapults going for it. And yeah, the members of Team NEWMERICS can't go back right now. They're being held in this team fight. 4v5, even 3v5 in the middle, as Hammer's gone all the way back. The core is at 59%, and there's 3 catapults. There's the Mighty Gust away. He's trying to grind this down, but no mana left. He's really got to get this out. No creep left either. There he goes. He got it as far as he could go.
That was such a good play. Like, I was sitting here and I was just like, wait, did he take Nexus Frenzy at level 20? Because I was like, his attack damage, if he went the Nexus Frenzy, he might have had the attack damage, but I'm not harping on that at all. I was just sitting there. I glanced at him, I'm like, does he have an out? And then I looked down, I'm like, epic mount. He is good. He burns it down from 100%. And a little bit of shielding already being taken away to 22. So just taking out 88% from that core is just absolutely insane. Excuse me, 78% from that core is just absolutely insane to me.
He's going back for round 2. Look at him in the bottom right there. All the members, again, except for Greymane, are at the middle, trying to defend the Dragon Knight. Oh, he's out again.
Lights out.
In the meantime, big team fight in the middle here. Blaze inside that bunker, just holding all the members of Team NEWMERICS in this mid lane. BFG coming through, a lot of damage. There's the Mighty Gust back in. Caesar Salad looking for the sleep. He gets it, but it's not going to be enough, as there's still just so much health on the side of Reborne here in this team fight, as they're fighting around the control point here, trying to prevent this Dragon Knight from coming in. It's pure disaster for NEWMERICS if this comes through, and nobody can find a pick yet. It's Kwanzaa who goes down, and that should spell the end of Team NEWMERICS here.
It looks like Caesar Salad's a little bit low here. Falstad will confirm that kill. We also have the Dragon Knight going to be picked up by Blaze. Zabatok might be falling here as they're diving onto the hammer. The Goomba Stomp doesn't come through, and that is the kill onto Yrel. At this point, with the flight down from Falstad and the Dragon Knight already be moving down, this looks like they're looking for the throat here, and Reborne wants to take game number 1.
Reborne will take game number 1. It's a 5v1 with a Dragon Knight in the back pocket here. Asterbroth, the only one alive on the Johanna. The blinds won't be enough there, as the orbital bullet coming through one last time takes the last of the shields out, and Reborne grinding off that last 22%. They'll take game 1 here in the 3rd and 4th place game of the Open Division, Cup number 1.